Good evening and welcome to the Village of Westmont Committee of the Whole meeting held for December 17th, 2009. I'd like to begin by asking our clerk to please take the roll call.
Mayor Ron?
Here.
The clerk's here. Trustee Emery?
Here.
Trustee Fleming?
Here.
Trustee Forsley?
Here.
Trustee Klebanow?
Here.
Trustee Scott?
Here.
Trustee Seneca?
Here.
Manager Searle?
Here.
Attorney Zemanek?
Here.
Deputy Fire Chief Weiss?
Here.
Public Works Director May is here somewhere. Police Chief Mulhern?
Here.
Village Planner Malik? Deputy Police Chief King?
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item before us this evening are the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held December 3rd and board meeting held December 7th, 2009.
There, you just got the minutes tonight, so if you see anything that needs correcting, give me a call over the weekend so we can get them corrected. Thank you.
Open forum. We have one open forum request before us this evening. Bob Mueller, 44 West 59th Street, Apartment D, Westmont.
Good evening. I'm Bob Mueller. The landlord ordinance still is a big sore topic in this village. I attended the December 5th meeting, and the lawyer who represented the village gave a lot of misinformation. What is being called a lease addendum is not a lease addendum. Lease addendums stay with the lease. You must be honest with the tenants, say where this lease addendum is going. It is not public property. It is not the knowledge of the police department or the village. So, take off the word lease addendum. Tell the tenants what this is. Also, you cannot go into a person's home and search their private property. This is a violation of the Fifth Amendment. We've read it before. What I would do is I recommend you get a new attorney to represent your building department. You've got to be honest with your tenants. This is only for revenue. This is not for any, good purpose for the village. Be upfront about it and say, this will not go into effect January 1st. If it does go into effect January 1st, I am advising all tenants who get a notice to say no to the Village of Westmont. You cannot come into my property.
Thank you. That is the only open forum request that we have before us this evening. Moving right along, reports. Mayor, I would just like to thank School District 201, the Village of Westmont, for approving broadcasting their meetings on cable TV after the first of the year. It's taken a long time, in my opinion, to reach that point, but I think it took a long time in coming. But I think if 70 to 80% of our tax bill comes from school districts, then we, as residents of the Village of Westmont, need to have as much information as we possibly can obtain regarding the expenditures and the activities of our school. We're all very much interested in what is going on in District 201. All of my children graduated from 201. They did very well. But I think, as we've done here in the village for many, many years, since I've been involved, we try to open up our meetings and share as much information as we can with the public here in the village. If someone has a question or a comment about something, they're able to come forward. We can't answer all questions, but there is a lot of communication, and this board has always been very conscientious about trying to best meet the needs of the residents of this community. And I think the School District 201 will be doing that by opening their meetings up to people who are very interested in the schools and what is going on, but for one reason or another are not able to attend the meeting. So I think it's a my congratulations to the board for approving that. And that is all that I have for this at this time. Thank you. Our village clerk, Ginny Simsky.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
Our village attorney, John Zemanek.
Nothing tonight.
Village manager, Ron Searle.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Passed out a email that we received from Reverend Casey Jones from the First Pentecostal Church here in Westmont at 21 East Quincy Street. As you may recall, he came before the board last year or earlier this year, I can't remember the exact time frame, with a request to utilize the community room at the Westmont Center for an event that the church had. We did grant that at the time in recognition of the past cooperative relationship we had with the church when we were constructing the village hall. They allowed us to use their parking over there as overflow parking at the Westmont Center while we were had our offices temporarily over there. That went well. The one stipulation was that they had to pay any and all costs that we might incur for the use of that facility, whether it be you know, any type of cleaning up afterwards or any type of labor, and they did in fact do that. They are now, because they had a good experience with that, they're asking if they could use the facility again. They're actually thinking about or putting forth a request to use it 2 or 3 times a year. And in this email that he sent to us, he kind of outlines that. And again, they're offering to pay any costs associated with that. They also, I asked about the idea of maybe formalizing an agreement where we could utilize their parking as overflow parking for the Westmont Center. As you know, we don't have a lot of parking over there. They are open to that idea. They're looking, immediately they're looking for some approval to hold an event on January 9th. We have talked a little bit about this at the staff level. We did have a good experience with them before. You know, we would have to make sure the dates didn't conflict with anything that the tenants are doing there at the Westmont Center. So we'd have to run that, you know, by the tenants and make sure that that would work for them. I think the pastor's wife may be here. I know she was possibly going to attend. Okay, she in the back?
Yes.
So he could not make it tonight, but she came if there are any questions that the board members have. That basically that's the proposal. They would like to use the facility 2 to 3 times a year. In exchange, they will pay all the costs associated with that, and they will formalize an agreement to allow us to use their facility as overflow parking. So if I'm asking if we can put this on the agenda for Monday for consideration.
Sounds good.
And the consideration at this point will just be the January 9th date?
Yeah.
And any future dates will be subject to negotiating a written agreement with them?
We'll come back to the board with a more formal agreement that'll document all the specifics of it for the board's consideration approval. That'd be my suggestion anyway.
Is there any concern about setting a precedent regarding?
No, I mean, it's your facility. You can lease it or not lease it as the village sees fit. You know, it was, the mindset I thought was to lease the spaces to community-type groups, not-for-profit groups, governmental-type groups. COD falls within that category, as do the other users. As far as using the basement space, I know doing it on a permanent basis or a regular occurring basis, as Ron reminded me earlier, was rejected by the board a couple years ago.
Yes, at the committee level, Admin and Finance Committee, we developed a process, talked about fees. It was ultimately rejected. I don't remember the exact specific reasons, but I think it was shortly thereafter we were asked to work on formal leases with some of the tenants we didn't have and also look into the rent option there. And one of the reasons we haven't brought it back up was we got the College of DuPage as a tenant, and I think from our perspective we thought, you know, it may be more difficult to lease that space out if they're using it for things that that are associated with the school use. So that's why I said earlier that this would have to be stipulated on the current tenants, you know, not being in conflict with their schedule.
We've already checked with January 9th with the tenants, and it's okay?
I think we did. I had asked to have facilities do that, but I'll verify that for Monday.
I know when I was on the building committee for that, that was one of the purposes to do that room, was not just, you know, I mean, it was actually even considered for residents, you know, if they needed a small room, a small party room and stuff. So, you know, as long as the tenants, it doesn't bother them, I'd have no problem.
It's a win-win for everybody at that point. We get the parking that we need for additional for that building.
Yeah, and whoever uses it will be required to pay for whatever staff and cleaning time would be involved with that area.
Cost neutral
Yeah.
to the village, so.
And I think each time has to be reevaluated to make sure there were no problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I had two other things. I passed out a list of one additional supplemental purchase order to DuPage County for stormwater review and permit fees. This affects the 60th Street culvert that the board's aware. We've had that partial collapse of that area, and we had to close that street. We're asking to put it on the agenda tonight and simultaneously put it on the finance ordinance so that we can accelerate that review process and try to get that project done sooner than later. Sort of related to that, but not directly, I passed out, right? We passed out, oh, you have them there? We are about to pass out a board action sheet to the for the Illinois Department of Transportation Local Agency Agreement Amendment. I know it's unusual to introduce something on a Thursday night, but again, this relates, even though it says 2008 CMAQ sidewalk project, this also relates to that culvert project. And I know we're all kind of anxious to try to move that forward as quickly as we can. So we wanted to at least ask the board if you would consider letting us put this on the agenda for Monday to help facilitate that. And Steve, I think you want to comment on.
Yeah, just briefly, this is actually an amendment to an agreement that you've already approved. The many complicating factors that go towards how long this has been delayed are the combination of the DuPage County reviews as well as IDOT. And the IDOT's participation is in that it's being funded with federal funds. So their review is part of this process too. So the two of them together and then going back and forth have complicated the review process. And one of the last things they were requiring is this additional engineering work, the preliminary engineering work. So we have to, the good part is, and the reason we tolerate the delays is because now 80% of this will be funded with the federal monies, and we only have to pay the 20% co-payment. If we do things out of order or do things more quickly, we're stuck with 100% of that cost. And we're very fortunate that the culvert construction itself can be part of this. This is actually a sidewalk project. So the construction of the culvert is included in this project. And as you can see from the dates on there, Noriel just received this a couple days ago, and he dated it for the next set of meetings. And I was, since it's been delayed so much, the engineer won't work on it because any work they do before the IDOT approval, they won't get paid for under that grant, and we have to come up 100%. So they're sitting there waiting to work on it. And if I can save 2 weeks, I would like to, execute this Monday if it's all right.
Was that sewer collapse about a half a block west of Cass?
It's over by Williams and 60th, where the creek crossing there.
Oh, okay.
Between Cumner and Williams.
Okay.
Yeah, let's expedite.
It's
Yeah,
Monday's
yeah, it's been
With me.
3/4 of a year it's been closed. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
And that was all I had.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Trustee items, start with Trustee Scott.
I just want to thank the mayor and the village staff for working and putting a solution for that District 201 televising and bringing the meetings here to the village hall. If it wasn't for you and the village manager working with the school board president, this would have never happened. So kudos to you guys for getting it all done.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Klebanow.
Just want to remind the people, everybody out there, that January 11th, again, is going to be our next census meeting, and I'd like people to put on the calendar, especially any groups, civic groups, churches, anything that could help us. Please come to the meeting. I'm sure there's something, we can find and need help on. Then I just want to remind everybody, because of the holidays, and since I won't be able to, and I know Ginny can remind everybody Monday, that our next committee of the whole will actually be on Tuesday, December 29th. So I want the public to watch their calendar. It is on the calendar. I also wondered, I don't know if, I was hoping Fred would be here. He's not here. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the AT&T, the Uverse. There is a way of getting it to have our meetings on there, but it's not just a matter like we turn on Comcast, you turn 6 on. I think you have to actually go to 99.
We do have it, yeah.
Would you tell the public and then also somehow publicize it? Because I'm running into a lot of people with this and they have no idea. And I've asked AT&T to please publicize it, and they can't because they go, a bit, they're too universal, I guess, or something, and they can't sit there and tell people how to do it.
That's been one of the, I don't want to use the word frustrating things about the difference between AT&T and Comcast, but it's one of the things that I know other municipalities have commented on. And it is provided, and I think you asked if Fred was here because he actually has the service, and he could explain exactly how you get to it. We do have a drop, and I know Glenn is in the booth there, and he's probably much more familiar than I am on how to get to it, but it's there. And you have to kind of drill down through some menus to find it, I think.
I'll do some screen grabs too and put it on the website so people could learn how to get there. But the way you get to it is you go to channel 99. It's going to ask you, do you want to launch? It's basically an application or a software app. You hit OK, which will launch the application. It will then give you a list of all the towns, and they're up to 66 or 68 towns that you could watch now on channel 99. And then you go down to Village of Westmont. You hit Enter. It'll then show you our 2 channels, our community channel and our government channel. And you can choose which one you want to watch at that point. You can't record it on the DVR. That's one of the issues as well, so you have to watch it. If you have it connected to a VCR, you got to be careful as well because the box shuts off after so many hours. So you can't, if you're going to be out away, you can't set it to record because their box actually shuts down. So.
Well, then, yeah, if we can make sure somehow it gets publicized, so people who are going to, because they're kind of pushing hard. I've had to call them a couple of times for different reasons, AT&T, for nothing to do because I have the Comcast, but they go through this big sales pitch about getting it. And I just tell them, hey, in order for me to see my meetings, you're going to make me go to channel 99 and then find Westmont, and I don't know how I can record it. And I says, don't even talk to me about it until, I says, Comcast, I just put on 6 and record. So, but I did feel, I ran into several people, and they keep saying, well, we can't have it because we have the AT&T, and I want to make sure they realize they can get it. It's still difficult.
We do have a list on the website that is channel 99. Now, there are positives to having this set up as well because you have someone who does not live in town who's talking to the board about something that they're developing. They can then go, if they had AT&T, they could watch it in their town where they're at. So 99 covers any of the Chicagoland area municipalities that have channels up on there. So
is the quality better? Because
no,
I believe the quality
is less as well. Yes, they're not using broadcast quality to send the information out.
I'm sticking with 6 and 16.
Yeah. We are having audio problems, I'll say that now, in case anyone does have AT&T. They've been working on it for several months now, some audio issues that we have. So.
Well, you used to have a really delayed thing from our meeting in the beginning.
It was about a 3-minute delay. They fixed that now, so it's about a 15-second delay from when we send it to them to when it gets here.
Okay, we can live with the 15 seconds.
Do you know, Glenn, I noticed we've got a link from our site to the Uverse site. I don't see it just glancing at it. Do they have any instructions for public access users?
I'm going to look and see if they have that so I don't have to recreate the wheel, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything that jumps out at me.
So I was just looking for a way to make sure more people have the opportunity, not just now to watch us, but now to watch the school district too. So, and thank you very much. I appreciate that. And anything else? I ought to have to say.
Glenn, excuse me. Will Will that include the school board meetings when they are available? They'll be listed right along with all the villages?
Yeah, well, school board, we have to make a decision what channel we're going to put them on, but it will include that as well. So playback as well as the live portion of that meeting will be on that. And it goes out both, we're on both, AT&T and Comcast. You could also listen to the audio podcast of any of the meetings on the internet. And we also have a YouTube channel now as well, so you can watch any of the video of any of the meetings that we do on the internet as well. So,
Your YouTube, so are they put on, like, I know before you leave, you have access to the audio, but how about the video portion?
YouTubes are still about a 2 to 3 day delay because of the process it takes to rip it in post. As we get into it more, that will come down to almost same night posting.
Okay, but right now there is a delay, so people who want to watch it will only be able to do audio if they're on the computer for 2
Immediately,
days.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Very good. Thank you, Glenn.
Okay, and all I have is Merry Christmas then to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Forsley.
I just have one item. The PTO president from Manning School was at the board meeting and brought up to the attention of the school board that cellular, the phone service is having a contest, and they will give $100,000 to, I guess, schools. I guess there's 10 schools. And we are part of that program where you have to go in and vote. And so you have to, here's the directions here. You visit the U.S. Cellular store on Ogden Avenue next to the Dairy Queen there by January 15th, and you pick up a voting card. And then it's 1 vote per person, 18 and over. And you can pick up multiple cards, and then you can pass them to your friends and things like that. And apparently all of our schools are on the ballot, so to speak. But they've got together and they said they would like everybody to vote for J.T. Manning School. So, if you split your vote, then it's not going to be very good. So if everybody votes for J.T. Manning School, then they get the most votes, get $100,000, and I guess they've agreed to share the money with the other schools, which is nice. So I told them, the PTO president, I would mention this since we're on TV. So those of you that would like to help out the school system, go to U.S. Cellular and get the voting card. And I guess it only takes a few minutes to get on. I still have to do this, but I guess it only takes a few minutes. It says there it takes 3 minutes. And you just vote for Manning School, and best of luck to them.
That would be so cool.
That would be nice. So
That'd be great.
that's all. I don't know if that's something we could also help put on, like our site, the village site, or anything like that. But anything we can do to help community or
I'm
anything.
sure Glenn is listening, and if it can be done,
He'll
it will
figure
be
it out.
done.
We'll figure out a way.
Okay.
You don't have to ask twice.
He doesn't have to run back in.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Trustee Seneca.
Thank you. We will have a Building and Zoning Committee meeting on Monday before the regular voting meeting at 6:30. We'll be talking about side yard setbacks, lot coverage, so it's going to be a pretty good agenda. I encourage everyone to attend. And then I just wanted to mention that the Sentinels, the Westmont High School Sentinels basketball team, they have their first home game this Friday. So it's great family entertainment. Take your family out to a Westmont restaurant and then head over to Westmont High School for a great sporting event. Also, I wanted to mention I spoke to Nancy Westman at length today, and Roger is coming along quite nicely, and she kind of coined the phrase. She said, remember when they used to say nothing stops a train with the air conditioning? She said, that's kind of how Roger is. Nothing stops a Westman. He's focused and set to get well. He's recovering, as you know, from emergency hip surgery, and he's coming along quite nicely. So she thanks everyone for their prayers and cards, and keep Roger in your thoughts. And then the last thing I have is I just wanted to thank our street department. Our block had a lot of puddling, and it literally froze from curb to curb, and it was quite dangerous at the stop sign. I sent Steve May an email very early this morning, and within 10 minutes, it was like it was all taken care of. So I appreciate that very much, and I know all of the people in Carlton Court appreciate that. So thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Fleming.
Well, the only thing I have tonight is to announce the decoration winners this year. We were out Tuesday evening for a while, and I can honestly say it was one of the more difficult years to try to figure which and who and what and how. But as we go in the homes, Mr. and Mrs. Canyuth at Morning Glory Circle won first place. This is a must-see. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. Well put together, well designed, and it keeps you looking for about 15 minutes. I think it's about how long we sat there to try to see everything that was there. Second place, this was an at-large that we found. The name is Houchins at 135 Scott Court. It's another one that is very well done. We thought was very good. And then third place is the Friedels at 314 South Lincoln. Then in the business categories, first place goes to Aria Floral Studio at 41 North Cass, then Westmont Floral at 116 North Cass, and Travelers Ice Cream Depot at 20 North Cass. And those are the winners, and I believe at a meeting in January, we will have them in to be recognized at the meeting. So you get a chance, not only those particular ones, but any street within the town or whatever, drive up and down, there's a lot of decorations out, and a lot of people did a great job. And I want to thank everybody that was with me Tuesday night. We had a great time, and look forward to next year. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Emery.
I'd just like to thank Lee for carting us all over in the Park District bus on Tuesday to look at all the houses. It was a tough decision, and I'd like to thank Lee and his lovely wife, Laura. They were looking out for me because I had a scarf wrapped around my hand in the cold. So they thought that since I can't wear a glove on my hand where I had surgery, that it would be appropriate that I could fit my hand in a puppet and walk around with that. So they were indeed looking out for me. So that's all I have.
Thank you. New business, 8.5 North Cass Avenue. Board to consider the following. A, special use permit request to operate a ground floor office in the B1 Limited Business District. And B, development permit request to open a tax office in the B1 Limited Business District.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Gloria Lin. I'm the owner and franchisee of Liberty Tax Service. And I have been here in the Westmont area for the past 3 years. Liberty Tax Service, according to the Franchise Magazine for January 2009, ranked Liberty Tax Service as #3 as the best franchise in U.S. And we're also proud national sponsors of Cell Phone for Soldiers and March of Dimes. And also one of our logo is that we make taxes fun. So that's Liberty Tax background. And for me, our store used to locate at 313 West Ogden, right by Las Palmas Restaurant and Catholic Shop. So I was there since 2006. And then since my lease got expired after 3 years, and with the economy being down, I thought this is a great opportunity for me to find a more economical location. And so that's where I, drive around the whole Westmont area, and I found this location at 8.5 North Cass. But I understand that I need to apply for a special use permit, and that's why. And basically, I just want to give you a little background that for us, Liberty Tax, we basically mainly do tax preparations during the tax season. However, I do open during the off-tax season for certain office hours to provide our customers all sorts of support. And also there are people who do file afterwards, or extensions or amended returns. And so most of the off-tax seasons, I have been helping people who have letters from IRS, and they're all very frustrated. And that's where I come and help them. And some of the other things that we have done during the past 3 years, including at 2008, when President Bush passed that stimulus rebate, I went over to some of the senior homes, and we did over 120 free returns for the seniors in order for them to get their stimulus rebate. And other things that I have done, including we provide free Krispy Kreme donuts to to introduce ourselves to neighboring businesses and stuff like that. And also every tax season we basically serve from 600 to 800 clients. And then our business, we emphasize on quality service. So we have guarantees and also free copies of returns, especially if people have misplaced their tax return and they need it for financial aid or applying for a loan and stuff. They call us right away and we, fax the return to their designated place, or we just basically do a lot of services for free to serve our customers. And then I'm also involved in Westmont Chamber of Commerce for the past 2 years. I've been involved in some of the events, and yeah. And also, as a national marketing campaign, we also do, at certain times, we would do free tax returns for policemen, free tax returns for firemen, free tax return for teachers, and free tax returns for hospital workers. And that is just part of who we are as Liberty Tax. And it's a national thing. And, I do follow some of those marketing campaigns during our low seasons. And then lastly, I also just want to emphasize on that as a community, I also try to give back to the community, such as what I have mentioned, free returns for those seniors during those special situations. And for this upcoming tax season, I'm planning to do a program with the Westmont Food Pantry, the People's Resource, by letting my customers, when I send out mailers, to encourage them to bring food donations in exchange for, one item, $10 off, maximum $50 off type of situation. That's, just our way of giving back to the community. And so basically, that's what I have to introduce my business. Thank you. Is there any questions?
How, do you have a long-term lease?
At this moment, I have a 16-month lease currently with the landlord. And obviously, previously, I locked myself in for 3 years, and we have built up our business from the last 3 years. So I'm basically hoping that not only I'm going to get my old customers back, but also going to generate more customers. And definitely, I like to continue in one place as long as I can, because that's a big hassle moving our business around.
Shannon Malik, our village planner, is here. Did you want to add something, Shannon?
Thank you, Mayor. It's sort of an unusual sequence of events here. We wanted to try to expedite this application, should it be approved, so that Mrs. Lynn can capitalize on the tax season, since that's right around the corner. So last night, the Planning and Zoning Commission did hold the public hearing for the special use permit. That special use permit is required in B1 because this is a ground floor use. If it had been in a second story or basement, we wouldn't require that special use. And there were 3 discussion points that I wanted to sort of recap because there aren't draft minutes available at this time. The first was that it was recommended that we include in the special use permit the condition that we have been adding to most, that it's applicable only to this occupant, only to this business. Secondly, there was a lot of discussion about one of the employees that is termed the waiver, and that's actually the Statue of Liberty person that's been dressed up in, you'd see him on Ogden Avenue. You were closed in May, is that correct, of this?
Yes, between CAS.
Prior to May of this year.
Oh, yes.
The waiver would be present on Ogden Avenue and getting attention, carrying some sort of signage and dancing and trying to draw business to the location. Staff has discussed this pretty extensively. There was some conversation last night as well. Staff suggests that it is not in character for the downtown central business district to have this type of person or entity there. I discussed this a little bit with Mrs. Lynn earlier today, and it would be within the board's right to add that as a condition of the special use permit if you see fit. And then thirdly, there was a bit of discussion last night about the fact that this particular office user would have several months of the year where they would only be available 1 or 2 days during the week, so there wouldn't be that presence on the street level for the pedestrian experience, et cetera. So there was some concern about overall office hours that was discussed. However, the general consensus seemed to be that this has been a very difficult space to rent. The size has been prohibitive, and that this may be a good match. And that's all I have.
Mrs. Lynn, there's a Liberty Tax at Fairview and 75th, right next to Adam's Salon there. Is that you?
Yes.
Is the sign that's up there what you'd be looking at putting on 8.5 North Cass, plus in the window you have a big big sign that says free tax course? You know, what kind of signage are you looking at putting up in that little, because 8.5 is a little window space.
Right. I believe the width I have measured is about 15 feet wide. And currently, my sign that I have at my previous location at 313 West Ogden, it's a box sign, and I believe that is I don't know exact size, but I have measured just from the ground floor and just measured to see if it fit, and does fit within. It's not going to be like completely covering the width of the front. I know it will actually be, you know, probably 2/3 of the length.
What about the sign that you have in the window down on 75th with the free tax course? It's one of those.
The window sign.
Yeah, big white signs
Yes.
that lights up,
Yes.
you know, and you can change the letters.
Yes.
Were you planning on putting that in the window?
Yeah, there are 2 panels, and I did measure that it will fit within 1 panel. So yes, one of the panel will have a box sign.
May I add to some of this discussion? Mrs. Lynn has not yet applied for the sign permit. We've only preliminarily been discussing it. As far as any wall signage goes, she has a small tenant space. She's actually given basically a bonus because she doesn't have 30 feet of frontage. We give her an assumed 30 feet to work with and then multiply that by 1.5. She would be entitled to 45 square feet total for her wall sign. So she's in the process of determining the size of the existing sign, and she's also been provided with the downtown Westmont design guidelines just as to try to find something that would be comparable or in line with the central business district. As far as any window signage goes, our code actually prohibits, it allows signage in the windows as long as you don't cover more than 60% of the area, but it has to be a paper or paper-like material. So we may have a problem with the electronic message board.
Other questions from board members?
What would be the hours of business during tax season?
During tax season, what I have before is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays, and on Saturday and Sundays would be 10 to 3, 10 to 4, and that's during the peak. And other than the peak times, because there are slower seasons, then it will be 9 to 7. I have to consider the downtown traffic, so it will be something like 9 to 7 on weekdays, and weekends would also be around 11 to 3.
I too have a bit of a concern with the waiver, but not just that it's not really a fit, I think, for our downtown, but I think it could also be a safety issue because Cass is so stop and go that it might be a distraction, and that, you know, could cause problems. Would it be okay if you weren't allowed her?
Well, I actually just talked to Shannon this afternoon, and that's when I found out that was an issue. And yesterday in the zoning meeting, I have explained that with our waivers, whoever that do come to apply for this job, by Liberty's requirement, we do have a PowerPoint that they have to, watch, and it's got all the etiquettes and all the rules that our waivers need to abide to. And most of my waivers are, for the past few years, I have consistent same people for the same tax season. But the source, where I would get these people, sometimes from Labor Ready, and sometimes it's just people who walked up to our office and saying, is there a position for me? And most of these these people, they do stay for the whole tax season, so they understand the rule. For the past 3 years, we have in Westmont, and also the 4 years I have at Downers Grove, we have not had any issues with our waivers. Whether either it's a traffic issue, pedestrian issues, or anything. I haven't really, if anything, it might have, every tax season, I might get 1 or 2 phone calls. People will complain, why do you have someone standing out there? But, again, I would try to explain to them that this is our corporate policy, basically. It's a national mascot for our business, that if you go on to other states, other cities, you will see them. And then we do take good care of our waivers. I prepare boots, scarves, gloves, overalls, hand warmers, hot chocolate. And, I definitely let my waivers know that, when the weather's great, dance all you want, stand there 20 minutes if you can. But when the weather's cold, obviously you can't come in as often as you need. And so that's why I'm able to have my waivers for the whole tax season. And since I just found out about this waiver could be an issue, I just want to express that if I'm not allowed to have my waiver for this location, then I will probably not be able to take it, because that is our #1 to-do list on our marketing thing. And John Hewitt is our CEO. He used to be the CEO for Jackson Hewitt, so he is really the big guru for the tax industry. And that is on our top 10 to-do list from John. #1 is waivers. So just wanted to share that with you.
Ms. Lynn?
Yes.
I can certainly understand as far as marketing, but where that location is, the sidewalk's not very wide. A lot of people have low awnings. I've seen this, how big the Statue of Liberty waiver is. And personally, I don't think it's appropriate for our downtown business district that we're trying to create a certain look and to upgrade it. So I'm going to tell you up front that I personally don't like them.
Okay.
So, for what it's worth, I don't think it would be appropriate. I think your office would be fine in there. It's a small space. And I understand the difficulties we've had in renting that space out due to size. But I just don't think having a dressed-up character out at a busy intersection that we pay close attention to, because it's an intersection with railroad tracks also, that distraction and the whole idea is not something I would be in favor of.
There is also a pedestrian crossing walk right there, which could be a distraction to drivers, thereby missing pedestrians crossing right in front of that store.
Yeah.
I've got to agree with you on that. I think it's no problem if the business comes in by itself, but not with the waiver.
I didn't even like the waiver on Ogden. In fact, I had no idea why there was a Statue of Liberty on Ogden Avenue. I didn't know it had anything to do with the tax thing, but every time I see those things, I think they're the most obnoxious things I've ever seen. I don't like waivers in any shape or form.
And Ms. Lynn, because this is a special use permit, the village has the right to impose reasonable special conditions restricting the use. So one of those restrictions could be eliminating this waiver, this person. Another one could be, as was discussed, limiting the special use permit to your business only. So if you were to leave, if another independent tax consulting company wanted to come in, they'd have to come before the village board and get approval all over again.
Sure, of course, that I understand. Now, I can understand all your concern regarding the waiver, and for most of the other tax businesses, all our waivers are standing at the intersections, and because that's where really you get all the visibility. And obviously on our PowerPoint, obviously that is one of the safety issues that we need to make sure our waiver understand that you need to keep yourself safe and do not obscure the traffic or try to direct the traffic in any sort. And from our perspective, I would say over 80% of the customers who do come in, when we inquire about how did you hear about Liberty, and they do say it's because I see your guy out there. And so, yes, from your standpoint, I can understand your concern, but I'm just presenting our position as well.
Isn't there some type of maybe freestanding A-frame type that you might be able to put out, in front, which we allow several of the other businesses to do, maybe with the picture or whatever on this, instead of actually having someone physically out there?
That will probably require certain permit perhaps, and with a certain days limitation perhaps, 60-day limitation.
We could work with Mrs. Lynn to try to accommodate her in that way. If it's something temporary or permanent, we might be able to facilitate a more permanent solution, even if it meant coming back before this board with whatever that solution was.
So what you're thinking of is maybe have a stuffed one that she can pull out when she's open and put back inside the door when she's
Like an
closed.
A-frame sign or something?
You're thinking like Absolutely Delicious has
Right.
the A-frame that they
A-frame
put out
sign.
there.
Yeah.
Travelers has the one with the blackboard on it.
Right.
And it's just an A-frame, and they change their sign.
Right.
And Dolce actually has a man.
A large character. That's why I'm saying, I
something
wouldn't
like
have a
that.
problem with, so long as it's reasonably done and, but I can honestly say, Ms. Lynn, we're not going to be in favor of a waiver out on Cass Avenue.
Okay, well, obviously I understand you have to vote on this and decide, and I can be pretty sure that if the decision is no, I don't think our corporate would, agree for me to take this location. And I guess in terms of the size, the big size, that is a big size, but we do have a smaller, about my size type of a outfit as well, and obviously the face won't be this big. And I guess just throw it in as a comment perhaps, because I would say a lot of people will probably complain about waiting there so long for the train, and it just, especially during traffic time. And from my standpoint, I would see our presence being there would be an interesting, fun part for the people who are waiting versus, I can totally understand the safety, security part that you guys are concerned about. And definitely that's our part to make sure we educate our marketers to understand, the safety issue. And the positive side that I see and I'd like to share with you is that our people, they're always dancing there. Most of the people who come by, they will be honking and, saying, yeah, I see you, as a response. And I think that might, a positive side would be it's actually cheering up people, because one of the things that I told my tax preparers is that we're day makers. We're trying to make people stay. And so that's just my personal business attitude towards our waivers. And they are the most important employees, so I really don't want to lose the opportunity to have our waivers be part of our business.
Okay, any other comments from board members?
Is there any way that you might be able to make a phone call or two tomorrow to inquire and explain the scenario and situation to whoever it is you have to talk to? Because, we would love to have your business there. It's just the one part, and I understand what you're saying, but from a standpoint of what we're trying to do down there, that part, I don't feel goes.
Okay. After I spoke to Shannon this afternoon, I have already sent an email over to my area developer. They had tentatively approved on the site, and I actually just faxed a copy of the lease that I have tentatively signed with the landlord, pending on board approval and corporate approval. And so I sent that over, and then this afternoon, hurry up, follow up with the email saying, well, tonight there's a meeting, and that's where we're going to try to see if waiver is going to be an issue, and then I'll hear back from her. But I understand that for all our franchisees, waiver is a big marketing thing, and it will. I'm not quite sure if Liberty Corporate would actually give us a green light for it. My immediate reaction is that could be a reason for them to not approve my site. And so definitely I will get an answer from them hopefully tomorrow. And at the same time, I guess for tonight, I just want to be here to explain our position.
Thank you.
Shannon, I've got a question. We've had other businesses that have done that. The oil change place up on Ogden Avenue, west of their location, they have their salespeople standing out in front with those boards trying to get people to go in there to change their oil. Is that legal according to code?
The way that our sign code defines signs and temporary signs, it refers to attachment to a building or some sort of frame generally. So it's been a little bit hard to regulate. And this is actually something that John and I had talked about earlier today. If the language is silent on it, we could probably just say that it is not permitted, but the safest bet would be to probably initiate some sort of text amendment to become clearer on the stance.
Okay. You might want to look at something like that in the future. Any other comments? Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next item is 17 East Burlington. Board to consider a development permit request to open a flooring shop in the B1 Limited Business District.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anas Al-Khatib. I can go by Alex to make it easy. So I am planning in starting a retail business for flooring and kitchen cabinet, granite countertops at 17 East Burlington. It's a new business. I have never done this before. I used to be a civil engineer for 8 years, and now in this market, I thought maybe going in different line of business would be better for me. I would like to create a showroom that's going to be beautiful, well decorated. It's not going to be a dusty warehouse. We're not going to have our warehouse in the store. We have a separate warehouse. It's just going to be a showroom with 1 or 2 employees maximum. And we will offer installation services for the flooring and the product that we will sell. I'm not going to sell or offer like heavy building materials or anything like that. Pretty much flooring, tiles, hardwood, laminate flooring, granite countertops, this sort of things. So just a simple business.
Comments from board member?
Is this going to be retail only, or will you be wholesaling to installers and other companies?
Well, no, it's not going to be a wholesaler. We will be doing the installation if we get a client who's interested in us hiring us to install the product for him.
Your corporate offices will be that location then, so sales tax will be collected on it?
Yes. Yes.
Is there any manufacturing or assembly on site?
No, no. I mean, most of our stuff is going to be prefabricated material. I mean, either like a kitchen cabinet that comes in a box, or like, a bathroom vanity. It's nothing that's going to be put together. No, I don't expect that.
And you won't be selling carpeting?
No carpeting, no. No, not my line of things.
Okay. Any other questions?
Which storefront is this? Is this by Yokohama?
Yes.
It used to be a flooring store in the past.
Anything further? Okay. Thank you. You'll be on our agenda Monday evening for consideration.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Next item, maintenance service agreement. Board to consider approval of a maintenance service agreement for aquatic weed control for Richmond and 63rd and Hidden View detention basins.
Mayor, this is a simple agreement that traditionally we have done by purchase order each year. It is for the aquatic weed maintenance in our 2 wet bottom detention basins, one being Hidden View, which is actually you see it off of Wilmette, and the other one is the Richmond 63rd basin that the village maintains. Like I said, each year we normally just do that. It's not a large dollar amount. We did it by purchase order, but we are now, for many reasons and for other good reasons, required to enter into certain agreements for any type of public works activity. The Attorney General's office and the Illinois Department of Labor have made it very clear that we need to be stringent about such things as prevailing wage rates, drug-free workplaces, and all of the things that need to be included in any public works contract. So the village attorney's office put together this master agreement that we will use for all public works services that are hired out. And we discussed this at a public works committee level, and referred it to the admin finance committee that just because the words agreement or contract requires village board attention on it, and we will look at the purchasing policy with your permission and determine what threshold that we can enter into these agreements at a staff level, possibly matching what the purchasing policy authority already is for spending levels. Otherwise, you'll be seeing an awful lot of agreements, before you at every meeting.
Okay. Questions?
This agreement on their authorization, there is a dollar amount on there for the 2010 season, but it says early bird special. So
these are the prices. When they sent me this agreement, these are the prices for early renewal. They do know, I have sent them this agreement, our form of the agreement, that they know that they have to execute, and their proposal is attached to the back. So they're honoring these prices if we can award these before the end of the year.
or it says contract by January 15th.
Yes.
Their 2009 price. So the price I'm seeing here is a slightly higher price than the 2009?
Yes. It'll be adjusted. If we wanted to do such things as lock in for 3 years or something like that, they would guarantee a price for that term. But for these types of services, so far, we haven't done that. Mr. Fleck, our landscape architect, ensures that we're getting the best, deal. There's only 2 companies that he's aware of that does this service.
So the one, not just for the people at home who may not know, it's about just over 1,500.
1,500 for one of them.
Over 1,000 for the other one.
Right. It's about $2,600 for the 2 of them together. That's for annual treatment.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item, board meeting rules. Board to consider ordinances. A, modifying section 2-51, time and place of regular meetings to include committee of the whole meetings. B, modifying section 2-55, order of business, to add a consent agenda item to the agenda. C, modifying section 2-60, Robert's Rules of Order, applicable to allow the board to adopt by motion specific rules of order in addition to Robert's Rules of Order. And D, creating section 2-64, consent agenda, to explain the rules pertaining to the use of a consent agenda.
This group of items grew out of Trustee Seneca's request on the November 12th Committee of the Whole meeting to look at adding a consent agenda section to our agendas. I apologize for how this is presented, but when I was asked to do that, I began to look at the ordinances and tried to figure out, okay, if we're going to do this, how do we make this happen in the ordinances themselves? As a result of that, I noticed a couple of things that I thought needed the board's attention, and that's why this has been categorized as board meeting rules, because it's kind of in that section of the chapter of the ordinances. One of the things is that we have never listed the committee of the wholes meetings in terms of designating the time and the place of the regular meetings. I don't know why. We've had committee of the whole meetings for years. I just thought this would be an opportunity, if we're going to address that section, to correct that. Originally, when the board was thinking about changing the time of the meetings, the original version of this also included an adjustment to that, but this would just simply be adding the term committee of the whole meetings. The next point looked at the section of the ordinances where we actually delineate how the agenda is going to look, and that's section 2-55, order of business, and I tried to include in your packet a version for both the committee of the whole agenda and a version for the regular agenda. You might not use the committee of the whole version, depending on how you want to structure how the consent agenda works. The other thing that you'll also find in that section is just some corrections, if you will, to how we currently structure our agenda. I added a little more detail in terms of the report section. Also added the call to order bullet point, which we did not have in the ordinance. Next was an item that actually had come up a while ago, and the mayor had talked to me about this some time ago. It came up in the context of how we add things to the agenda, and I realized that a number of communities have more detailed sort of sets of rules other than Robert's rules. I had originally hoped to have a draft of that for you to look at tonight. What I'm suggesting in this section 2-60 is just simply adding a statement that would allow you to adopt those more specific rules. You don't have to. It's not required, but we would come back to you with a set of rules that you could look at and decide at some point if you wanted to. I did pass out a couple of samples, one from Village of Downers Grove, the other from Elmhurst that John's office, Anne Marie, provided for us. I think she actually had some involvement in drafting the Downers Grove version. And then finally, the last section in here is the consent agenda itself and the rules that would be attached to how we would use that. Consent agendas are fairly common. Just looking around in our neighboring communities, just very quickly, Downers Grove, Clarendon Hills, Darien, Lisle, Woodridge all use some version of consent agenda. If you take some time and go look at their agendas, you'll notice that they have different sorts of things in their consent agenda. So it just depends on how you want to craft it. What I tried to suggest in the write-up is that you could do it a couple of different ways. You could tell staff up front, we think these things are the kinds of things we want to see on the consent agenda. When we prepare the committee, the whole agenda, we would delineate that so that the board and the public would know that these are items that would possibly be approved under consent agenda on Monday night. The board would always have the opportunity to remove it at that point. Another approach would be to just continue preparing the agenda the way we do for the committee of the whole, and then as you go down the items, you decide, we think this is an item that could be put on the consent agenda for Monday night. We think it could be part of an omnibus vote. The key to making the consent agenda work is that everybody has to agree that these items are non-controversial and they're kind of routine matters. That's kind of the basic definition of it. Again, you would always have the opportunity to remove things from the consent agenda. You know, this is something that if board members have any particular concern about how you structure this or need more information, you know, this is certainly something that could be postponed. These other things that are in here could be postponed or removed. If you're not interested in the Robert's Rules of Order section amendments, we could remove that. That's just a suggestion and something that the mayor and I had talked previously about. I would recommend that we do change the time and place of the regular meetings just to make that more accurate and regardless of what we do with the consent agenda, maybe make some modifications to how we show the order of business just to make it accurately reflect what we do. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I did include in your packet some information that Trustee Fleming passed along to me that he got from an organization called the Board Source, which is a professional organization that supports non-for-profit boards and entities and provides some background on consent agendas, how they're used, and why they're valuable to some organizations. Those are my comments, I guess.
Questions or comments from board members?
Okay, I'll start off. I'm not in favor of consent agendas. First of all, I can't see it helping at all on Thursday, which is our longest meeting. In fact, it could actually add more time to our meeting because we actually have to figure out what is going to be on the consent agenda. So we're going to have to go through and add on a discussion on what we would like on it. The other reason is a lot of times I don't like, to me, to put on a consent agenda is a preview telling everybody we're going to vote yes on it. I mean, I'm sure you're not going to put something on a consent agenda you're planning on turning down. So to me, it's like telling people on Thursday, we're going to say yes on this on Monday. And the reason I have a problem with that goes way back when we were meeting in the basement of the Westmont Center. And it's probably something that couldn't go on one, but I'm using this as an example. We went and researched some property on between Thursday and Monday. We were given by the developer a total look at some property. It was perfect. We loved it. And I know Sue was on the board back then too, and we were absolutely positive we were going to say yes on this project. Now, Monday, when it was ready to go to vote, we were pulled off into an executive session, told some problems. We all came back, and I think the poor petitioner was absolutely floored because we're all going, no, 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 and he had no idea. But there was a reason we had to do that. So since then, I've tried to stay as open-minded as possible. I was teasing Ron Searle. I may close the door, like right now I can tell you the door is closed on consent agenda for me, but it's not locked. I still have to have that little opening for if something changes my mind. I just don't feel it's going to help Thursday. It's going to make it worse, and that's our longest meeting days. I went through, which is one reason I found that mistake, I went through our last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings, Monday meetings, and we're talking 20 minutes, half hour. One meeting was actually, for some reason, 7:30 to 9, which was unusual, and I think when I read in there, it was either something that we were on a very lengthy discussion, it might have been that a trustee had missed Thursday and we were trying to hash out, or we weren't quite certain how we felt, and we rediscussed it. I just don't see adding a couple of items. Now, it could be as simple as minutes, but we didn't get the minutes till today, so we still couldn't even put the minutes on a consent agenda today because we have to have time to review them. I'm not comfortable right now with it. I wouldn't mind observing our meetings to see if it would, but I have a feeling if the only thing it could do is possibly knock off maybe 5 minutes of a Monday meeting. Most of our meeting is on reports, on awards, and that's what actually was in here a lot. They were saying how we shouldn't be doing these thank yous at the meetings and things. One of the things when Ron and I were talking about it, these proclamations would be nice. On the other hand, we did a proclamation for a lot of our departments. We did one for our public works. To me, to throw that in on a vote along with other things takes away the reason we're doing the proclamation. It takes that nice part away, that why we're trying to do a proclamation. So I really, unless we could figure out what exactly, I don't even think the finance, not the finance ordinance, but the purchase orders, because a lot of times I've had to pull something off the purchase order and ask us to vote on it separately. So, I mean, I really don't see there's too many items that we probably could put, but it's something we could probably be earmarking for a few meetings to see this might have been good and how much time you think it might possibly save us. But I really, if it saves anything, it would save something on Monday, and I don't think it could save anything more but a couple of minutes. And I just don't think it's worth it. I think it means something when we vote on everything.
Potentially, I'm thinking of Clarendon Hills. Do they use a consent agenda?
Yes.
They have 2 meetings a month. They do everything in one night.
But they don't have a workshop.
That's what I'm saying. They don't have a workshop. They do everything in one night.
Darien's the same way.
There might be opportunities, not every month, but there might, using a consent agenda, I can envision times where we might only need 2 meetings in a month, because maybe we can have committee of the whole and vote all in one night and save the village a lot of money in terms of salaries.
But the one thing I liked about separating them is from tonight's meeting through Monday, I'm watching for emails and voice messages from our residents who are picking up on our conversation and our discussion. And then they may want to put in a word. Now, they do not have that opportunity if we try to combine the committee of the whole and a voting night on the same night. I think we did that once because this year for some, I'm trying to think, we just did that.
I can't remember why, but we did do it.
And I do rely on, you know, looking for that as well as, like I said, reviewing and thinking and not being pressured into making up my mind. I look forward to our discussions. I really do. And I have replayed our meetings if I.
There are a lot of questions come up from staff regarding staff and what's being presented to us. It takes from Thursday to Monday to get the information.
I mean, even
get
this,
the answers that we ask for.
Right. Even this one for the tax
Right.
thing, we're going to be waiting to find out too.
Right.
But it's working for other communities, so I guess what's different for?
In Clarendon Hills case?
Yeah,
Like
tell me.
Candy Day sales, that why would we have to put it back? You know, and somebody wants to go out in the intersection and collect for cheerleading, and this one wants to, you know, that was what was envisioned, I think, when we were talking about it the first round is, let's dispose of stuff that we don't need to wait on, which is, okay, you know, if Lions Club wants to extend their Candy Day stuff for 2 weeks because of rain, I mean, to keep putting it on agendas.
Well, and you know, they want to do the street closures for the taste. You know, that's been drilled with staff, they've gone over it a million times. It's, you know, we don't need to be spending a lot of time on those kinds of things, in my mind, but.
You see, and the thing is, what this also does, if you read it, if it has to do with anything with an ordinance at all, it cannot be on the consent agenda.
Right.
If there's anything with that goes, but the main thing was the things that we see come to us on a constant rotating basis, that every one of us in this room has never had a problem with those items to put them all together. I mean, the Girl Scout cookie sales, Boy Scouts popcorn, like you say, the Taste of Westmont, the closing, the holiday stuff that comes through. I mean,
Firemen's fill the boot.
Firemen's fill the boot. I mean, all these items that can be put in one spot, yay, go for it, which then would allow us some more time, if need be, to get into the actual items that we're more concerned about. Plus, it also states that at any given item on the consent agenda that you do not want on the consent agenda, any one trustee can request it to be removed from that agenda, which it has to be removed.
I'm thinking of things too, like surplus property.
Surplus property.
Why do we have to get in big discussions about that when the experts have already made the decision and we have them in positions of authority because we trust their judgment? We don't need to drill down and ask them a gazillion questions about, you know, why are you getting rid of that typewriter?
And if somebody has a fit about, well, we could use that as an undercover car, why would we use it as surplus and I don't want it on the consent agenda?
Take it off.
Pull it off.
Put it off.
Ron, did you talk to any other communities on how it works for them or it doesn't work for them?
I have in the past. I didn't in this particular case. I mean, off and on over the years, I've talked with other managers that use them, and I have never heard anyone, you know, say that it doesn't work well for them. I know that we've had some discussions at the board level, albeit briefly in the past, and there was some concern by previous board members about the potential of it being abused. But we never really seriously looked at it, you know, by putting it on the agenda and really analyzing it. As Trustee Fleming said, in those recommended guidelines, they give you certain kinds of things that you should or shouldn't put on there. What I have noticed looking at the different examples in the communities is it really does vary. There are communities that do put ordinances of certain types on the consent agenda. In Clarendon Hills case, things they use it for, they've got a process where they use multiple readings. And a lot of times, for whatever reason, they end up waiving those readings. I'm not sure why they have the readings if they're going to waive them, but they do that apparently quite a bit with some of their ordinances.
Clarendon Hills also doesn't televise their meetings.
No, they don't.
There's resolutions also on that. One community, Lyle, they actually put the consent agenda portion under the mayor report. And we'll have to ask Mayor Lyle exactly how that works, or maybe you know, Mayor, but I don't know if that means he has a role in defining what goes on that and it's presented to the board. My point is that it seems like every community crafts a little bit differently, and it depends on you know, what you're comfortable with.
What's your take on it, John, if I can put you on the hot seat?
I've seen a number of communities use it. I represent another community currently that uses it. They don't have committee of the whole workshop meetings. And I was presenting not too long ago in Carroll Stream with no workshop meeting, no first readings of their ordinances, and they had everything listed on their ordinance, and they voted then and there whether to move stuff to the consent agenda. 3/4 of the ordinances, including what I was there for, an annexation agreement, special use, variance, et cetera, were all moved to the consent agenda, along with a number of other things. It was very efficient for them in that context. Personally, I agree with Trustee Klebanow. It's going to prolong the committee of the whole meetings a little bit. It will shorten the voting meetings by maybe 5 minutes on Mondays. Since this was brought up several meetings ago, I have been keeping an eye on it, like you suggested. How much time would it actually save to have potentially the finance ordinance, the purchase orders, minutes, and a few other routine ordinances? I really think it's about 5 minutes that it would save, maybe 10 minutes. If something's going to be discussed, it's going to be discussed. If it's a surplus ordinance, it's just going to be voted on very routinely without comment and be very quick. I had one other thought that's now eluded me. If I think of it, I'll come back to it. But generally, I think the real issue is the timing. But Ron, to your point, I have seen communities do ordinances, et cetera. I don't think it would work well if you did not include ordinances and resolutions, putting those on. I know what my thought was. The solicitation ordinances, especially from the non-for-profit groups, our current ordinance does require those to come to the Board of Trustees. I have talked to Ron, it was several months ago, but it's been on the back burner about is there a way to not have to bring those to the board every time, especially when we get the routine ones, and just have staff approve those.
You know, things like block parties.
Well, we did put block parties.
They did do block
Approve them
parties.
now in the clerk's office.
I think
We
the only
do
thing
that.
I had about the things like the Lions Club and stuff is I thought it was great publicity for them. I mean, you know, it was like a little free on the TV, and that's why I really enjoyed that. I mean, otherwise we could put the block parties. You really don't want to publicize that much because they're more private.
We
for the
don't bring
block.
them up
I know you
anymore.
don't, but I'm saying that's why I didn't like it because every time there is this one block party, I do get an email from someone about it. But the whole thing is that most of them were routine. We could do it for things like the Lions Club and stuff, but I think they enjoy coming to be able to, you know, publicize and say this thing is coming up. And that's one of, I think, the unique things about us is we're giving our, you know, not-for-profits a little publicity. And I don't think it takes that much time. We let them do their little talk about it, and then Monday, we vote on it unless we have that last-minute question, you know, something
Is
comes
Downers
up.
Grove using it?
Yeah.
Is Downers Grove using a consent
do.
agenda?
Yeah,
They are, right?
You know, Trustee Scott mentioned Clarendon Hills and you know, their approach to
And I guess-
television.
I guess what I'm thinking is Downers Grove is so much bigger than us.
Is it
And yet-
because they're busier that's why they probably need one?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
More groups,
Is that,
more-
I kind of would like to almost do a little more research and talk to some of those people.
But is it smaller communities are really necessary, where a bigger town
It may be
needs
more
it just because of the
necessary.
amount of people that are coming in to try to
You know,
do
it might be
business and do
some,
things?
exactly, and that's kind of what I'm starting to think.
Well, is it going to be a wash, spending Thursday night saying what we should put on a consent agenda versus the time it would take to just
Go through it?
not say
Right.
anything and yay or nay on Monday?
It could be.
I guess
Exactly.
my other question is, and I'm going to just ask this, how many other communities around us actually have workshop meetings?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know of any.
There are some communities that have like committee meetings and some, I think Elmhurst comes to mind. I think they have committee meetings sometimes prior to their regular voting meetings. So they do a lot of the committee of the whole work at a committee level. We happen to have both. We have committee of the whole meetings and we also have committees that meet. I could do a survey if you'd like and we could get more information. We could provide you with some more detailed samples of what other communities are using them for, and you can look at that.
I'd be curious because Lyle is smaller than us.
I think most other communities that I've seen do
So's
the
Darien.
first reading, second reading. So if something needs a lot of discussion, they'll have a first reading of the ordinance, they'll have comments, 2 weeks later, it'll come up again for an actual vote. That's kind of their workshop meeting, but it's not.
So it's just kind of
Yeah,
delayed.
they table things or postpone them.
So in that period of time, you'd have the time to get the questions and answers to those items. It'd just take place a couple of weeks later. It wouldn't be a case that if you had questions on something that night, you don't vote on that item that night, you move it.
Right. But then when it comes back that second night, because they have other items that are coming up for the first time that are going to require discussions, they know half their agenda they can put on a consent agenda because they've already hammered them out. I think it makes sense in that context.
I don't think we need it.
It may not be a fit for us.
I think we talk about transparency for other governmental agencies and bodies in this community.
Part of the reason that we're here
You have to kind of follow that too.
Is to share information with our community. That's why we went on cable TV, to let everybody know what we're doing. The board decides to go with a consent agenda, that's fine with me. But I've always had, and right or wrong, we all are entitled to our opinions, this opinion that with the consent agenda, items, information is being hidden from the public. They're not being presented enough. You say Lyle doesn't have or doesn't have workshop meetings.
Oh, I don't
think the
know.
workshop meetings are great. I think it offers all of us to say whatever we want. We've all been to other meetings, and I think I've watched other board meetings, and I don't get the idea that they're sharing with me everything that's really going on. And I think with our meetings, we have that opportunity to share that information. That's what makes our meetings special. People will come up to us, they come up to me. They're out there listening and watching us. This is their community. We are here to share and give out as much information. It may take us 10 minutes longer, 15, but
I don't view the consent agenda as shading or hiding anything by virtue of what's allowed to go in it.
Right.
You know, I mean,
You don't, but what does the public see it as?
Well, it's a published agenda and what's in there, and anybody can come at any time and ask a question. That'll never go away. So I don't see that as a real big issue. Honestly, where I was coming from is I thought, gee, if there would be any way, we could cut 2 or 3 or 4 meetings a year, we're talking a couple $1,000s for this community. It's costing, staff time. Unfortunately, the salaries of the elected officials, which everybody knows how I feel about that. I'm thinking if we could save a little bit of money, and if there was a way of doing it, but it may not be a fit for us. It may not be a fit for us.
It could be a case, even if you don't go to the consent agenda, still find a way to restructure our meetings to where we could take a couple of meetings out somehow.
Because I don't think consent agenda will do it.
No.
I don't think that'll do away with the meetings. And, listening to everybody's input, I was in favor of it before, but I tend to be in agreement with Pat and the mayor that, people are entitled to know, even if it's something that we think is routine, they're entitled to know about it. And, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'd rather have them hear it from us than have the progress guess at what the consent agenda was.
And a guess it would be.
Well, I think the problem, and what the mayor was referring to, and this goes way back, which I forgot about why, but I guess way back when, in '97 when I first got on, and Mayor Burke was on, I guess it was talk back then, and all I knew is consent agenda back then was a dirty word. And I think it was because some communities, doesn't necessarily mean us, but some communities were putting things in
things that shouldn't have been on.
And well, either shouldn't have been on, or the public just didn't catch it, and it perceives. It just gives a perception when you're taking a big vote like that. The minor things we would put on, would be fine, but I don't think they're even routine because we don't have them every single meeting.
Well, I think Bob made a good point in terms of size, and I think your point about potentially a Downers Grove or an Aurora or a Joliet or, a much larger, or a Naperville.
Well, if the
Our
economy
agendas
gets
are
better
so
and
packed.
we start doing more building and things
At
get
this
busier,
time,
it may be something to look at in the future.
Be a fit. It may not be a
keep our eye
fit.
open. It was very interesting reading because I really didn't understand what was allowed and what was not. So I found it very interesting reading. And like I said, I just didn't find we had enough items to do it yet. But we'll keep an eye open. Like I said, monitor ourselves. And if we do start seeing very large agendas, it may be something.
that we could look for if we had to, find a way of combining
Revisit.
it.
Or as Sue said, if we see a very short agenda
Combine
that
the
doesn't have a lot.
You know, like I look at tonight's agenda, we could have done this all in one night.
And save the village some
We
money.
could have done this all in one night.
I
We
think-
could be voting right now and,
Except
I
for
think
the
you need to
consent
come up
agenda.
with why.
but no, I mean, really.
Even without the consent agenda, we could have done this all tonight.
Yeah, I'm saying because of the,
Done with it.
yeah.
I think you need to
To
come up,
watch
we're
that.
just discussing, I think you need to come up with why you want the consent agenda.
Well, initially, it was a
What-
time
so-
saver, but
So the
through
first, if it's
discussion,
for a
it's
time,
not.
if it's for a time saver, I won't speak anymore. And then you guys can get out early.
Well, if that's the case, then we don't need
I'm
it.
only kidding, I'm only kidding. But I think we've talked, and it's not a time saver. And then the second thing is, if it's for a cost, I don't know the consent agenda would be the answer as much as
Meetings.
Taking the
meetings.
opportunity
You
of
look
a
at the-
small
you look at the
agenda and
agenda
combining them.
and we combine
Yeah,
it.
if
I don't
there's
think we need a
nothing that's
consent agenda
urgent,
for that.
you know, that
Something
somebody needs a.
non-controversial.
Well, either non-controversial or if somebody needs something expedited, then we can't say, guess what, we've decided, you know, to kick everything. But, you know, there's got to be at least a couple every year that we can say,
To save
you
some
know,
money.
Well, the
this
one time we
and-
did do the double meeting, and I don't, what happened that we had to do that?
There was
can't
some,
remember why.
the
get
garage,
caught-
the
didn't
garage
get-
sale. Remember that garage sale came up where she donates her proceeds? She came up and we could not vote on it because it was not on the agenda. We had to wait. And that makes it difficult if you do a one-meeting thing. We have some last-minute things we're going to be putting on the agenda
No, but
for
I mean,
Monday.
we did a double meeting one
The
night.
com-
where
Oh, we did.
The committee of the
I can't
whole, and then
remember
we
what it was.
voted
Right.
because.
Why we did it.
but
There was a meeting that
reason.
was canceled for some reason
Well,
and we
John,
combined them.
is there a way that we could, if an agenda is short, we could publicize it and just have one meeting? Is
Yes.
there legally, can we do
Once
that?
you do it 48 hours in advance, you can cancel a meeting and combine the two.
So if we agree to that concept of how or when we would decide to do that, and maybe that would be something Ron would,
Try to come up with maybe
Some
a
kind of, you know-
proposal of how we could do it.
if you look
Yeah,
at the agenda and say,
When we get our board packets on Saturday, if
Mm-hmm.
we look at the agenda and are we allowed to,
Or maybe a staff recommendation.
Yeah.
With our packet. This might work, this may
this
not work.
might work, and then that puts us where we've got, you know, we're well within the 48-hour requirement to cancel a Thursday meeting and combine it with Monday and just get everything done.
Like I said, the only thing we have to watch for then is we have to make sure that something doesn't come up like it has tonight, and they want to put something on for Monday's agenda. We won't be able to do that
Right.
when we combine the two meetings. And that's what that Angel Haven, or whatever it was called, she came to ask for the garage sale, and we could not approve her that Monday. And she was used to being being approved the next time, and we couldn't do it because we had combined those two meetings, and she didn't understand it.
Yeah, but she waited until
Well, then she got
Last
another
minute, too.
location.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
she
wasn't-
does, but I'm just saying that, I remember that came up, but we couldn't approve her.
But I don't think I don't think that's something that happens on a constant. And I mean, if we have an agenda that basically is pretty straightforward, I don't see any reason why after we get our packets to take a look at it or go on staff recommendation, or even if there's something each one of us, we can call the manager and go, hey, let's just do this all in one shot and be done with it. Or, there's something on there in particular that you want to talk about. I mean, one of the biggest things I think that we go through a lot of times, and it'll come back eventually, is the building side of it. They go to the Planning and Zoning Committee, they go through everything, then they come to the village board and go through it all again. And I mean, that can sometimes draw things out a little bit more, because you don't always get the same information that went to planning and zoning as what you get in front of you here, which that's not supposed to happen. I mean, that's just an example. But, I mean, whether or not a consent agenda would work or not, I mean, right now with the way things are, no, it probably won't. But if things get busy again and we get moving, it's something we may want to take a look at. But I think we do need to look at, see if we can combine some of this stuff and put it into one night.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
It's crazy to not do that
to
if we
save
can
money.
save some money.
Save some money.
I wouldn't mind if it was the trustees, but I'd almost feel better if staff came to us
Right.
and mentioned and say, hey, it looks like an easy night, would you mind if we combine? Because for
yeah,
them to
maybe
sit there, we don't know what he's got planned, you may have a last minute purchase order that you need to get in like you did today and stuff. And I don't want to put staff at just because we feel it's a you know,
Well, I think it would
non-personal.
always be up to staff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but it was said that we would call Ron and tell him, but I don't think we need to. I'd rather have Ron.
Actually, I was thinking, you know, if we do go ahead with the board rules amendment, maybe that would be a good subject to include in those rules as a process and how we're going to do that, and then you would agree. I'm not sure what that process is yet.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, because the board rules says we have to have a committee of the whole.
Do I understand then we'll remove the B and D that's kind of connected to the consent agenda item, and can we leave A to include the committee of the whole amendment into section 2-51, and then leave section 260 with the understanding we'll bring back some rules for you to look at? Again, it doesn't require that you adopt them, but it gives you the opportunity to adopt them without codifying it.
So we'll just have a new A and B.
We could do that, or we could keep it as C. No.
Right now, Ron, it's drafted all as one ordinance, so I think I'll rework the wording for the agenda, so it's all one item, one vote. Save time.
Oh, so that's what was keeping us long on voting.
Well, it's just going to be one item, and it's going to list
A and B.
A and
C.
A and C.
A and C.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's okay with that?
One item.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Okay, next item. Personal communications site license agreement. Board to consider an ordinance approving a personal communications site license agreement with Clear Wireless LLC, authorizing the placement of cellular antennas and related equipment on the village water tower at 328 South Wilmette.
And the board previously considered variances for this. You have the proposed site license agreement in front of you and the write-up on that. And since I drafted that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. For the public standpoint, it's would be going on the water tower where there are existing cellular antennas and cabling on that water tower, and it would be revenue to the village of $18,000 per year, increasing 4% every year for a 30-year term, which is consistent with the other license agreements for cellular antennas on that tower.
You say for 30-year term?
30-year term.
Questions?
How does that compare with other communities that have towers pretty much in the same ballpark? I mean, I know they all negotiate.
I don't want to.
We haven't looked at it in a while, but I can tell you, after we did the first couple, we looked really hard at it. We had a different village attorney at the time, and he had some personal experience in some other communities, so we actually increased the amounts. From what I've heard anecdotally, I think these are still really competitive, but I haven't, done any surveys in a while.
Am I understanding on your one paragraph here that the first year it's 18,000?
720.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then but the total for 30 years will be 56,000?
No, that's each year. That's
That's a dollar amount each year that you'll be paying.
each year. In year 30, they'll pay us 56,000.
Okay.
Year 15, they'll
By
pay
the
us
last year with the
31,000.
with the 4% increases,
Right.
the last year will pay out. Okay, I was trying to, I couldn't, that wasn't going to equal right, that's why I was asking, okay. I get it.
All of our agreements have an escalator, and that's why we still think they're really competitive, is we've had that escalator in place. And years ago, we adjusted the whole schedule of those.
You will notice there are underlying changes in this document. The underlying changes were the Clearwire changes, most of which are benevolent, but several of them are not acceptable and have been communicated back to them, and we're waiting for a response. I don't think we're going to have a problem with the ones that I've proposed to strike. You don't have my responses in your packet because I had to get the packet out to you.
Right.
But the ordinance that's drafted says this remains subject to final attorney modifications. the items that are under, I would say the one major one is there's some language about their right. They have to call the police department when they want to access the site after normal business hours for service, maintenance, et cetera. They added language that if there's not a response by the police department, they can go ahead and just walk in and do the repairs because they have a government mandated mission to make sure their facilities are operational. And I struck that because in the post-911 world, we have to be cautious who gets into the and around the water tower. And we have a police force that's open 24/7 and can get someone there on site, and has never been a problem to my knowledge in the past with the other providers. Right, Tom?
Well, the problem would be if the gates are working right, they'll be closed anyway. They don't have the code to get in, do they? They don't have an access code? Okay, so they'd have to have the police or somebody open the gate for them. Okay.
The only additional thing that I'd like, John, is we're seeing a lot in, with more and more antennas going on municipal structures and surrounding homeowners, trying to stop them, that if we allow this as part of the agreement to put in there that if it's challenged, our ordinance is challenged allowing it, that they'll indemnify us for any legal fees in defending the ordinance. Because there's a lot of that going on.
Well, there's a lot of opposition with the high school field lights and cell towers.
Yep.
No lawsuit, fortunately.
Yeah, but it's, you know, since I do a fair number of defense of these type of ordinances, none of the companies, the cell companies, have balked at that. So I think it's something that just, it helps protect us.
Good suggestion.
So even Monday, it's subject to the agreement anyway, so we can still go ahead and vote on it, whether you've heard back or have an agreement, we still go ahead and vote on it.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else? Finance ordinance number 16.
Waive the reading.
Request to waive the reading. Purchase orders. Any questions on purchase orders? Hearing no comment, moving right along, expediting this as quickly as we can. We have no request before us this evening for an executive session. With that being said, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I almost thought we weren't going to do it.
Trustee Emery.
Yes.
Trustee Forsley.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Fleming.
Yes.
Trustee Klebanow.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
All those votes are documented. Thank you very much, Trustee Simsky. This meeting is adjourned.